development. So today our guest speaker is Ms. Kamal Shree from India, who is a Google developer expert for Flutter and author of WhatsApp Code, a YouTube channel. Today our guest speaker is Ms. Kamal Shree. So uh, guys, make sure you be till the end. We have some prizes for the quiz, and the time is yours, Kamal Shree.
All right. Thanks, Afnaz. Thanks for the quick introduction. So let me quickly start. All right. Well, you can see my screen now. So welcome to my session, Google Flutter, the next frontier in mobile or app development. I'm Kamal. I'm a Google developer expert in Dart and Flutter and a YouTuber. So before I start moving on to the agenda, I would like to make a few things very clear before I start. So first thing you need to know as to why you would like to learn Flutter, or what are the features that make Flutter really stand out in the market, or how different is the architecture. These are the kinds of questions you should have an answer before you start diving deep into a framework. So today, at the end of the session, you would have all these details and all the confusion cleared, and at least you would give a try to see what Flutter is if you haven't. So when I started Flutter, I was very skeptic because we already had very awesome frameworks in the market, not to mention. And I was like, why should I try all this? And trust me, when I started Flutter, I never turned back. I said, yes, this is the toolkit and I want to stick to it. And I started exploring every bit and pieces of it. And it really amazed me day and day as and when I started developing apps. So the agenda is pretty simple and straightforward. So you'll know why Flutter, and then we'll also get to know about the animation part, which also makes Flutter really predominant in the market, and a few details about state management, which is very important. And always it's a topic of discussion as to what is state management and which state management should I choose one, or is this a good or a bad state management? So today you would have that confusion also cleared and how to approach one. And then we'll have a quick deep dive into the Flutter packages as to how you can choose a package, or what are the criteria you need to know when you are choosing a package, and a bit of Flutter about web. And also, I would also be touching few of the releases update, because as a developer, you just need not know only the Flutter concepts and you're done with it. No, you also need to know what are the new updates that's happening in Flutter so that you can use them in your day in and day out of your developer's life, just to make it easy. So this is the agenda and it's pretty straightforward. Now coming to the framework. So if you're someone very new to Flutter and you really don't know, then this is a couple of slides from here is a must. If you already know Flutter, then it would just be a kind of a refresher. So don't miss it anyway. So if you ask me what is Flutter, I would say it's this UI toolkit from Google that actually helps developers, very specific. It actually helps developers, not anybody else, to build this high performance, high quality native apps across multiple platforms. So is this all about Flutter? Definitely not. So there are a lot of other features about Flutter. So what are there? Now, the first feature I would say is beautiful. Now, when I say beautiful, am I talking about the UI part of the app? No. I'm talking about the underlying framework, where the Flutter is a layered architecture and it gives you control over every pixel on the screen. That is what I'm talking about beautiful. Then coming to the community and the open source, it actually goes hand in hand. You know, Flutter is free. It's open sourced. That means anybody can contribute. If you learn Dart, which is the official programming language for Flutter, you can start working on it. So the community is, I mean, you can easily find ways to communicate or to support or to contribute to this Flutter. So for example, say if you have a GitHub account, or you want to talk to a team of experts, or if you have issues, or you have Stack Overflow, meetups, Reddit, So these are the platforms where you can actually get in touch with the Flutter team. If you have any issues or any project that you're working, you can definitely get in touch with it. And when I say open source, you know that this Flutter is purely contributed by the community. So we have the entire developers from world contributing for these issues. So the number of issues that are getting closed is so high that we have every month certain releases happening. So we have almost like 3,000 pull requests. So you can understand the rate at which issues are getting resolved, features are getting updated, community is working on it. So that is how community and open source is hand in hand for Flutter. Then we also have something called FAST. Now, when I say FAST, do I have a number for it? Definitely not. I cannot say, okay, this framework is fast than this framework by so many speeds. No, I'm not talking about that fast. I'm talking about this powered, or the Flutter architecture is powered by this same hardware accelerated 2D Skia graphics library, which is the same for Android and Chrome. So on the browsers, these are the same accelerated graphics that we use in Flutter as well. And the Flutter is architected in such a way that it supports glitch-free, jank-free graphics at the native speed of your device. So that is what when I say fast. And also cross-platform. Cross-platform in the sense, in Flutter, everything is a widget. So if you go to React, if you're from a React background or if you're aware of React, in React, everything is a component. So in the same fashion, in Flutter, everything is a widget. And these widgets are special widgets, and their unique design actually make it capable to develop the same app to cater to different platforms. So I build once and I'm able to run it on different platforms. So that's the speciality about cross-platform. Then moving on, we also have every month or quarterly, we have the release from GitHub where they talk about Dart, which is the programming language for Flutter. As per the IEEE standard, it is kind of the number 5th software repo in the GitHub. So you can see that the language which just started 1 or 1.5 years back is kind of almost in the top 5 list. So you can see the kind of support, the kind of updates, the kind of releases, the kind of openness to the clients, how industries are kind of open to use this new technology. You can see that everybody wants to use it. So these are some of the unique features that actually makes Flutter stand out in the market. Now moving on to the main thing, which is the animation, which I always love and would like to talk about it when it comes to Flutter. So first thing, if I have to say animation, tell me that one single app which does not have animation. Every app has an animation, whether it could be sliding from one screen to another, or touching of a button, or clicking on the tabs, or zooming of a particular image. Everywhere you have animations added to your mobile app. Now, why is this? This is just to give the user feel that there is some kind of interactivity happening with the app. But in those days, initially, what we used to do is we used to have an animator designing the animation part, and then we used to have a front-end developer, and then we used to have a software developer translating all these animations. But in Flutter, how is animation really tackled? So there are multiple ways to do it. So before that, let's talk about what is animation. Let's have a gist of it, and then let's see how we can build animations in Flutter. So these are a couple of my examples that I have built using Flutter. So the first one being the one on the left side, it being a graph animation. So for this, all I did was just use the animated graph library and few static values, and I was able to get this 3 different types of graph, which is the pie, line, and another one, the bar graph, yes. So for this, I did not use any complicated functions, anything as such. So just use the library and I was able to get this. Similar way, if you look at my second app, I have 3 components here. So one is the smiley, one is the slider, another one is the rating value. So what I did was, instead of having everything as an individual component, I tried interconnecting all the 3 components. So that is, as and when I slide, the smiley changes, and my rating value also changes. So that's how you think as a developer. And moving on to the third example where I have used a custom painter widget. It's a widget where all I could do is I can draw the geometric shapes like circle, square, rectangular, and you name any, you can draw these. So I was thinking, what could I think about? Definitely your manager or your client is not going to ask you to draw shapes in your app. So I thought about what other design I can come up using this particular widget. And that's when I thought about whenever there's a Google I/O happens, they release out a transition. So this was the kind of a transition they released. So this is nothing but I/O 2019. So that was the symbolic representation. So these examples would be available on my GitHub account. So in the reference section, you can definitely find these details. So if you'd like to try and experiment with it. So moving on to the animation part. According to me, animation just has 3 components. Using these 3 components effectively helps you get animation. So the first one is the ticker, second one is the animation, and the third is the animation controller. If you master these 3 components or three concepts, animations is just a piece of cake. So what is a ticker? A ticker is just like ticking of your clock. So we do something or something is changing as and when the clock ticks. That is either the color changes or the position changes or the size changes. That's what animation is all about, right? So it happens so fast that it looks like it's kind of an animated picture or animated color or something like that. But that's happening in a sequence. Next, we have the animation values, which is by default 0 to 1. And this is the actual thing which does the animation. And then we have the animation controller. So for everything, we need a controller because we have components, but there should be someone to control it. So an animation controller is someone who manages the class, which tells you when to start the animation, when to stop the animation, when to loop back, when to go reverse, forward. So all these kind of controlling part is being taken care by your animation controller. So when you combine all these 3 components, animation is possible. So now what about I've been talking verbally or been talking about things? This is what the pictorial represent tells you. So first thing, I have the tween value, which is the kind of the input. And then I send the duration, that is how long I want this animation to take place or how long or within which duration I want this animation to take place. Whether if it's a fast animation, I would give 1 second. If it is a slow animation, I would give 5 seconds. And then also I give the kind of curve, which is whether do I want a fade or fade in, fade out, easy, bounce, what kind of a curve I want to add into it. And then you have something called controllers. These controllers actually control all your input values. And then the output is not the animation. The output is the animated values. And these values are actually fed into your Flutter widgets. That makes your widget redraw and gives that look of that particular widget or particular component is getting animated. All right. So that's the kind of understanding. People think, okay, the animator is going to give the animated output. No, it's going to give you the animated values, and these values are fed into the widgets to get the animation. Now, if I have to explain this in a very simple terms, you might tell, Kamal, you know what, this is too much technical for me, telling animation, ticker, tween, and all that. So a simple thing would be, consider this flip book. So my ticker here is nothing but the pages. The images that are different on every page is an animation value, and the controller is the finger that I use here. So how fast I do is my duration. So as and when I tick every page, the animation value changes, and at the end result, this looks like this has been animated. So if I have to explain in a simple language, this is what I can talk about animation. So here I have all my 3 components, which is the ticker, animation value, and my controller. So that's the very basic of animation. Now you would say, Kamal, okay, now I understood what is animation. Now tell me, how do I do that in Flutter? So definitely first approach that I would say is by using this tool called Rive, which is a kind of a powerful animated tool. Yes, I would say it's a powerful animated tool which actually allows designers and developers to develop this high quality animations with their app. Now, if you look at these apps, I haven't used any specific designer to get these designs. So all I did was I used this tool called Rive. Okay, it's just like your GitHub where you have public and private repos. So you are free to create the design. So you can create the design if you are good at sketching or creativity part of you is there. So get the design and export that file and use it in your Flutter application. So whatever you design on your Rive application is what you have in your mobile application, the end product. Initially, if I had to get any these kind of animation, say if this dragon, I had to call an animator, get this dragon designed for me first. So he would give me the raw details of the dragon, and then I would have to give it to the front end team to get the entire animated into a code, which would be like thousands and more than 1,000 lines of code. And then that would be given to a software developer to transfer it to the proper app structure or a developer. And then I would get the final product. But with this tool, all I have to do is just one draw or one usage of this tool, and I'm able to get the end product on my app. So if you're really good at drawing, please try it. It is for free. And there is a lot of other frameworks like you have skeleton, you can go really in depth, because if you look at the first one, as and when I type the password, you can see this bear actually looking at it, and it's also making some kind of motion gesture. So these repos are all available on Rive. You can fork it, you can add features on top of it as well. Next, you might say, Kamal, you know what? I'm not really a graphics designer, or I'm not good at drawing. So tell me then, how can I really work on animations? So we have something called Flutter Packages, where this has been already developed by developers like you and me, who are developing these third-party libraries. So all you have to do is just go to the pub.dev, which is the official website, to get all your package details. Grab the package, add it in your pubspec.yaml, which is the file that you add all your package details, and that's it. You're good to go. You can use any of the animations developed by these developers. So it's free to use, and you can explore this. So here are a few of the animations that I just picked up. And say, for example, you want this kind of gradient effect in your splash screen, which is the beginning of your app. When you install, you want some kind of splash screen. You don't have to break your head to get this design. All you have to do is just use this library, and you're good to go. So that's the kind of hard work you don't have to do. And you might also say, Kamal, you know what? I understood how to do it. Okay, that's the tool, and then there's this package. But you know what? I've been from a designer's background where I've been using a lot of Adobe XD. And is there a way to do it? Definitely. This year, Flutter team actually released the Adobe XD plugin for Flutter. And how easy it is to use is, if you have a design. So this is the kind of a design that usually an Adobe guy would do it. So when he does, all he has to do is, get this XD to Flutter plugin installed, which I'm pointing out here, which is a plugin, and then create your Flutter project, and then the code path. Just mention the path where you want these files to be generated. And then there is something called assets/images, because definitely you want this images, whatever you being created here, has to also come to your Flutter application. So add the assets/image, and then just give a folder name, and then say export all images and export all widgets. By just clicking on these two buttons, this is what you would get. So you would get all your images here. So whatever images I had in my previous screen, those images are here. You can see here the files getting auto-generated, and you can see the code is also auto-generated for you. Say, for example, if I had to do as a Flutter developer, if someone says me, Kamal, can you please come up with this entire design on your Flutter application, I would take days to do it with this precision. Definitely, it would take some time for me to do it. But with Adobe XD, all I have to do is just 5 minutes and I can get this entire code generated for it. So that's how easy it is. So please do make use of all these plugins, packages, libraries, which is readily available, and definitely explore Flutter and see how you can actually get animations and make your or delight your user with these kind of effect. Definitely, if I see an app with this kind of effect, and I would definitely love to use that. So definitely use it. Next, moving on to state management. Always it's a topic of discussion. Whenever I go to conferences or whenever I go to talks, people do ask me, Kamal, what is the best state management, or what do you recommend? And is this good? This is bad, and all that. So before getting into all this, and also I've seen that a lot of beginners, when they actually choose a state management, they're so overwhelmed with it. They're really confused and they're so lost. And most of the time they are actually juggling between the state management. They don't know which state management to use it. So before I dive in deep saying, okay, which state management to use, let me tell you what is the state management and what is the state first all about in Flutter. So this is the simple formula that actually Flutter follows in relation to state. So when the state of the app changes, so state could be the properties, anything as such. So if the state of your app changes, you change the state, and this actually redraws the entire user interface. So you change the state, the UI builds from the scratch. Say, for example, you have the default Flutter counter app. So when you click on the increment button, the counter changes from 1 to 2. And again, you click on the button, it changes from 2 to 3. So this is actually, the state is getting changed and the entire UI is getting redrawn. So that means the Flutter is declarative. That Flutter builds its user interface to reflect the current state of your app. So what is your current state of your app? Here are the values that keeps changing from 1 to 2, 2 to 3, and then so on. So this function, whatever formula you see here, it's nothing but a function with state as the input and UI as the output. And this Flutter keeps calling this function whenever you rebuild the widget. So we keep telling in Flutter every time we rebuild the widget. So what's really happening in the background is this function is getting called every time when we build it. So when we build, it checks the state and then your UI is drawn. So this is what the state is all about and rebuilding of your app is all about. Then if I have to tell all this, then what is that state management all about? We have tons of state management, whether it could be scope, block, mobx, riverpod. By the time I'm talking about it, definitely there must be another developer in some corner of the world discovering another state management as well. So what are these state management and how do I choose which is the best one? Is that there is a universal state management that I can think of and I want to stick to it throughout my lifetime as a Flutter developer? So there's so many questions pop up in someone's mind. So I would say I always relate things with real-time examples, because at the end of the day, we are developing product for a human being, not to machines or someone else to operate it, right? So if I'm doing that, I need to have a very simple understanding, or I need to correlate things very easily. Say, for example, if I go to an ice cream parlor, I have tons of flavors and I don't know really which one to choose. If you've been there very frequently or using it very frequently, you know which one to choose. You would choose one and then move on. But if you're new and you don't know what is this, definitely you would ask the person, that is the team of expert, can you tell me what is the flavor of the day, or what should I really try? So he would suggest you, you know what, the chocolate chip cookie is really famous here. You should try that, or the Oreo, or the strawberry, whatever. I don't want you guys drool up with ice cream. So yeah, so this is what it is all about. So similar way, I would say state management is also the same thing. There is nothing like good or bad flavor, or there's no good or bad state management. It totally depends on your project. It totally depends on your requirement and what is the usage. So if you think your project needs this particular state management, then go for it. If you're comfortable with another one, please do go ahead and work on it. But there is nothing like wrong or right. So in simple words, all I would say is state management is like an ice cream flavor. Try it out, test it. Take a simple app. For example, take a counter app and start building it with block. See how different it is. Then again, take the same counter app, build it with scope model. Take the counter app, build it with mobx. Try different things and see which one is the best, which actually caters the performance, which actually goes well for this particular use case, and then use it. So first I look for one state management, I analyze it, and then I start coding it. So this is how I would say I would use, in fact, a state management. So there is no good, there is no bad. Everything is a good state management. It totally depends on your use case. So whenever you're selecting a state management, try to understand these concepts: the reusing of your code, the performance, the presentation. These points actually tell why you're using a state management. To avoid all this, I would be using one. Say, for example, if I want to separate the business logic from the UI part, use a state management. Your code gets easily structured. If you're passing state between one screen to another screen, use state management. If you're looking for performance related issue, use state management. If you're using a lot of reusing of code, to avoid it, use a state management. So these are the few things that you need to keep in mind when you're actually working on state management or using one. So as I mentioned, again, a refresher, state management, there is no good or bad. It totally depends on your requirement. Say, for example, I'm using a simple counter app. Do you think I would use block? Definitely not. Because block, the boilerplate code used in the block architecture itself is so much, it actually is so much more than the app itself. Then why would I use block? So definitely not. So understand your requirement, your goals, your expectations for the project, the complexity of the project. So if your app is really simple, just go for set state. You don't even have to think about any of the other complicated state management. And then also the style. There are certain people who are like kind of stick to one state management and they say, you know what, Kamal, I'm really comfortable with block and I don't want to use anything else. And say for the company that you're working, they've already developed an app and they started working on one of the state management and you cannot say no to it. Try out and see how different it is. At the end of the day, you're going to make your client happy. You're going to make your app good looking, high performant, good quality. That has to be your goal, rather than you sticking to one state management and saying, this is what I'm comfortable with and I don't want to use it. So just be flexible to use different state management and try to explore them. So we've been talking about animations, we've been talking about state management. So let's move on to another unique feature about Flutter, which actually helps a developer's life day in and day out. Now, why I keep emphasizing a developer's life is, at the end of the day, we are the one who are actually using this entire SDK developing app. If it's really not making our life easy, then why would I really use all this? If I have to build a particular app and it's going to take 20 minutes, do you think I would definitely opt for that SDK? No. I would look for something else, or I would suggest my manager, you know what, are we not going in a wrong direction of using this? So we need to know what are the features that makes easy and how I can use it in my day-to-day life. Even say, for example, a simple update. I have a file created and I have imports. I've imported few packages. Say I have to move this file from one folder to another folder. It's easy to move. I can just drag it and drop it. But at the moment I do that, all my packages would have these red squiggly lines saying they're unable to find these packages. Do you think how much time am I going to spend getting all the packages organized or the imports organized for this? It's going to take tons and tons of time for me to do this. But now in Flutter, we have all those kinds of features available. That is, as soon as you drag and drop a file, it automatically updates your imports. So that is how easy it is. because at the end of the day, I have to be kind of stress-free when I'm developing an app, so that I don't have to look into all these parts and rather just concentrate only on the functionality, so that I would have more time to do those kind of works. So yeah, when I talk about packages, I have tons and tons of packages created by developers like you and me. They are screaming, use me, use me. So, but then, will I go use all the packages? No. There are certain things that I will actually look when I'm actually looking for a package. So the first thing, these all are the verbal statements. In the next one, I'll show you where you can actually look for all these information. So the first one is the build status and the version, because there is a version attached to every package, and there is also a build status which tells how it functions well in the pub.dev. There is also a score where as soon as you create a package, which can be created by you and me as well if you know Dart language. So every package is given a score, and the maximum score is 100, and the minimum score is like, yeah, it can be even 30, 40 also, depending on how your package is functioning in the repository. Then we look for something called compatibility. So we have like Android, iOS, and now we also know that we have the web compatibility. Now, as of now, I have a package that is compatible only with Android and web. And then in future, if my client says, okay, you know what, let's migrate this app to the web component, and the package that I've used is not compatible with web, think about how I have to reinvent this wheel of building this entire package for web. So always look for package which is compatible with most of the versions, and then try to use one before jumping in to use the package. Next, look for authors. If it is from the Google team, it's been developed by Google, so you can use them because they give every time support to it. They resolve issues, so you can use them. And there is also a GitHub repository which shows you or tells you and also redirects you as to how you could actually see this package was built. So you can see how this developer built this entire package, and the entire code would be available. So in a moment, I'll show you all these details, and it also has the installation and the examples. So whatever I've been talking, now you can see it in a visual effect. So the site that you need to go is called pub.dev. So the moment you type in this particular URL on your browser, you would be able to look in through all the package details. So here, for example, I've taken a shared preference. So this gives you the version number. And then I was talking about the compatibility. So few packages would have only Flutter, Android, iOS, and not web. So I would recommend, in case if your app is going to be migrated later on to web part, then definitely do not use it, or check with the author if they would be doing one in future. Because or else it would be a burden for you. You have to change everything. You have to look for an alternative solution to use this package for web. And then, as I mentioned, we have something called score. So this package has a maximum score of 100, and that's the maximum value. So it's kind of a most used or a favorite Flutter package. So you can see this symbol as well here. So the first tab is about README, where you can find all details about the package. And then you have the examples, where it cites you with an example where you can readily use it in your package and how to use it. And there are installation where it will ask you to install the few details in your pubspec.yaml file, and there are versions. So every versions would have what kind of update was done. So these all are clickable links. So dive into this particular URL, look for a package, or just browse one of the package, and you would find all these details. And as I mentioned, we have something called repository. So click on it, and you would find the entire detail as to how this package was built by a developer like you and me. So that's why you have this repository link, or the details of the person who created this package. So these are a couple of examples that I've used Flutter packages, and I was able to get these designs. So here it's a flip card. Now, if someone has created a flip card package, what could I actually use it for? Its job is just to flip. So I thought, okay, let's do a business digital card where I have this kind of a background, and the front talks about me and the back of this flip card talks about all my social media icons. So something like that. So as a developer, do not see the widgets or the packages as a package or the same as what it explains. Try to get the creative side of yours and see what you can come up or build doing this. And then I had this similar way, the smiley one, I had a star, slider, and the rating. So I've kind of interconnected all of these. So with a slider, what I could do, I could just slide it, but sliding and getting the stars glow is something that I'm looking for. So this use case, this example use case where I could use this, say for example, you building a college app, or you building say some kind of an event app, and you want to take feedback from users. Instead of having this old school style of entering the text asking, can you please tell me how the event was, instead of doing all those, you could actually have these kind of interactive feedback. Even the user gets delighted, the customer is delighted. And even looking at the app, everybody feels very easy to use it. I don't have to do anything. If I want to enter a star rating of 4.5, I don't have to enter 4.5. I can slide this, I can put it to 4 and a 5 stars, and the value of the rating would be available. And I can click on submit, because that's the kind of user interaction these days users are expecting on your app. So this is another one such example where I had a staggered grid view, which is like kind of a photo album kind of effect. So I could just use the package, and I was able to add few photos, and I was able to get this. So I did not do any complicated functionalities to get this structure or anything as such. So that's how handy packages are. And here it's a simple dashboard where I have card structures with different sizes and shapes. And all I did was I added a chart package here and added few static details. And I was able to get this mini dashboard in my app. So if you have a dashboard where it does some kind of analytics showing you the attendance detail or some kind of digital currency statistics or anything as such use cases, you can use these kind of dashboards. And to do this, I did not use any designer. I did not use any high quality animation tools or anything. Simple Flutter packages, and I was able to get these design. And all the example that I'm showing you is available on my GitHub account, where you can refer it to later. I'll give you the link, and you can explore it, fork it, play around with it, and see if you can come up with cool features. That would be great. So you might ask me, Kamal, you know what? I see so many tons of beautiful package. You know what? I want to create one. How is it possible, or is it really possible? Definitely it's possible. So what is that requirement I need? First thing, you need to know Dart, which is the programming language for the Flutter. Second thing, so once you get your hands-on with Flutter, then you start analyzing. Understand if you really need to create this package or not. Because if there is already a package available to do the same idea that you're talking about, then why you want to create a duplicate one? So please avoid that. So look into pub.dev, explore, analyze, go deep, dive into it and see if someone has already created. If it is created, then don't do it. If it's not, then definitely do it. Then also see if, say for example, I have this, okay, let's take this example. Say I have this chart, and instead of white boxes, you wanted to have something, say, colored boxes depending on your theme or something like that. And the package does this all job. Think like that. So if that's the case, then what you could actually do is, instead of creating a new package just for that color change, you could actually contact this package owner via GitHub and ask him, or see first the open issues, if he's already working on something like this. If he's not working, propose to him by telling, okay, I have a proposal here. I would like to add this feature. Are you going to add this to your package, or shall I do it? If he says, no, we are already having a team working on it, then definitely don't do it. Just wait for it. If he's not doing, definitely he would say, if you would like to raise a request and work on it, you can fork it and contribute to the community. So this is one way where you can actually communicate, contribute to this community and start working with it. So this is how the community grows. So rather than you building an whole new individual package, you could customize one on the existing one. So that way you are actually contributing this to this package as well. So here I have taken one such package, which is the Webview Flutter. Now, if you ask me as to what this package is all about, I found this package pretty interesting. Say, for example, all right, first let me tell you what this package does. This package is nothing but it allows you to display a web page without you having to open the mobile browser's web page. That is, whenever I click on a link or something, immediately it prompts me saying, would you like to open it on Chrome or Edge or Firefox, depending on your mobile browser? I don't want that to happen. I want Flutter to open the entire thing with its own web page, and that's possible. Now, why am I using this plugin and how different it is? Say, for example, if you're from a web development background and you have done this you've invested so much of time and so much of work on it and developed this cool payment feature. And now you say you're working on this app and you want to kind of connect both of them. So do you think you're going to develop this entire payment feature app on your Flutter app? Definitely not. But using this plugin, you can directly connect. That is, on a click of a button, connected to your payment, which is on your website. Simple as that. So this plugin helps you. So I have a small demo that I want to show you how I have done it. So first thing, you need the plugin details. And you can fetch these plugin details on pub.dev and add it to your pubspec.yaml. And then I have the code. So let me get the code and then I'll explain you what I really mean. Okay. So here what I've done is I've used, these all are widgets. So whatever you're seeing, the purple highlighted text, they all are widgets. To get this screen, I used a single child scroll view. That means I can scroll it within one page. So I don't have to, it's not that I have another two more buttons and I'm stuck. I'm not able to scroll it. So I've used a single child scroll view. I've used a column widget where I have one below the other. So all my three buttons are one below the other. So it's in a column structure. And then I've added center, that is the main axis alignment center, so that all my buttons are in the center and they stretch. So these are the properties. And then my column widget has three buttons, and these all are custom buttons. And these custom button has three properties. One is context, one is the link, and one is the text. So the link is nothing but when I click on Medium, it takes me to the Medium article. When I click on plugin, it takes me to the plugin page, GitHub page. And the text is these button text. So just by using custom widgets, I'm able to create this button, the buttons one below the other. Now let's see how to create the single button. So let's get into web button. So if you look at the web button, it takes three text, as I mentioned, the URL, text, and everything. So what I've done is I've used a container and given a padding of 20. So in Flutter, everything is like a tree structure which falls one below the other. And I've used a flat button and the primary color, a particular color, and then I've added a padding again, so that inside the button you have a padding between your text and button so that it doesn't look like as though the text is kind of touching your button borders. And then I have the text color and the text, simple. And then I have an on press, that is when I click on the button, something happens. Now, what is that something? That's WebView container. That's the text that I have given. You can give anything, XYZ you could give, and the URL. So what happens when I click on the button? So let's see what is this WebView container is all about. So it has some URL and scaffold. Scaffold is the beginning of your app. It has to be, but before that you have something called material app. And then you have an app bar, which is the app bar in your app. And then you have a column, expanded, web view with a key. A key is nothing but, say for example, you have multiple widgets, and when I'm clicking on this, it has to reference to which widget I've clicked. So that reference is given by the key, and then my URL. Simple. That's it. This is all web view. So the final product looks like this. So when I click on the medium, it takes me not to an external browser, it takes me to the same app itself. You can see the bar here and with the medium page loaded here. When I click on plugin, it's not taking me to external browser. It in fact opens the browser in the app itself. And then the GitHub. So this way you can use this is one example of your plugin, how to use it and how I can achieve this kind of a feature. Say, for example, you have a news app and you have the details of the news kind of displayed in a list view. And when I click on it, it has to take me to another different site. I can use this plugin and I'm good to go. Next, coming to the Flutter Web, which is one of the anticipated topic. Everybody wanted to know what is Flutter for Web, how do I use it? So let's see what it was. And it was basically introduced at the Google I/O last year. And yeah, it was made publicly, but just a word of caution, do not use it on production. It's not production ready yet. It is still in the beta phase. So you want to try, explore, investigate, just want to see how things work, try it out. It is available, but not for production ready yet. And there are certain things about Flutter for Web and how is it different. So this is one such example where I built, where all I did was I created the Flutter for mobile, and then I was able to run this on my desktop. So this actually boils down to one point. People would come and ask me, should I learn Flutter for Web first or should I learn Flutter for mobile first? In my experience, I would say learn Flutter for mobile first, understand what a widget is, what a state is, state management, and how the architecture is, and then jump into Flutter for Web. That is what the sequence you have to follow. But if you're really super intelligent or you're super smart, you want to try out for Flutter for Web, do try it. There's nothing wrong with it. So all I did here was I wrote the code once for Flutter for mobile, and I ran the same code on Flutter for Web with just a small tweaks. Now the tweaks I'm talking about is if the screen size is so many values, show me 3 blocks. If it is this screen size, show me 2 blocks. If not, 1 block. So I cater my app according to the screen size, whether it's desktop, tablet, or mobile, something like that. So that was the only change I did, and the rest of the code remained same for both Flutter for mobile and Flutter for Web. All right, this is one such example. And this is another one example where I really like the design, where I had this card where you could see this overlapping, where you can place it with the help of a stack widget. This is also a simple dashboard where you have 4 blocks. And as and when the screen size decreases, I have 3 blocks, 2 blocks, and 1 block. So that's how adaptive it is. Now, I keep saying that I have developed this code once and I'm able to run it on both mobile and web. Now, as a Flutter developer, just understanding what a widget is, state management is, or just building the app is not going to make you different from other developers. You need to understand what is this architecture. How is your Flutter mobile architecture different from Flutter web? How is that one single code I'm able to run on both mobile and web? How is that possible? So today you will have an answer to this question. So the one on the left corner is your Flutter for mobile architecture, and this side is your Flutter for web architecture. Now, if you look here, there is one section which is common in both, and that's our area of interest, which is the green section, and that's the framework. So if you see here, this is written in Dart. So whatever I write, render, animations, my widgets, all come in the green part. The rest of it is the engine specific. Whether it's the browser, it takes care of it. Whether it's mobile, the mobile app takes care of it. So all I need to concentrate is the green part, which I'm doing in the terms of coding, and I'm able to do it. So that's why one code, even if I write here once, I'm able to run the same thing over here. So that's about your architecture. So now you know the answer as to how you write code once and you're able to run it on different screens or different platforms and as such. And few things that I would like to highlight is the about the layer which is compiled to JavaScript here, this part. We have something called the Dart to JS compiler, And this is capable of doing all this compilation and in fact more than that. And yeah, these are the few things that I thought I'll just mention about. And yeah, we also have something called Dartpad with Flutter. Now, if you're new to Flutter and you want to try Flutter and you don't want to install all this complicated IDEs, whether it could be Android Studio or IntelliJ or any of your studios, but you want to try Flutter, how do I do it? There is this online link or an online studio or an online editor, which is called Dartpad with Flutter. So just type Dartpad with Flutter and you'll be able to open an online editor, and you would have the code already available, and you just click on run and you can get your app running. So these are the few examples created by the Google team and the Flutter team, where there are sample on the top right corner, you would have sample code. So you click on one, you get this code running. So you can see what code they wrote to get this particular effect. And in fact, you can overwrite or you could add few things on it, experiment with it. So here they have got this Christmas tree. So here the circles. Now here they did not use any third-party plugin, nothing as such. All they used was the Flutter SDK and they were able to achieve this design. So if they could achieve, definitely you can also come up with a lot of designs. So do try Dartpad with Flutter. And finally, we have come to a stage where we know what a Flutter is. We know what are the properties that makes Flutter stand out in the market, like animation, state management, all the search features. But I think at the end of the day, as a developer, you are still empty if you don't know how is your framework functioning in the market. How is it performing in the market? Because you need to be updated with kind of features that you're looking for, or so that you could use them. So as per the Google, it says that we have, but now the values could have been changed. We have 2 million developers using Flutter apps, whether building apps, they 60% on Windows, 27% on Mac. These all are my kind of exaggerating values. The numbers could have got increased or more, and 13% on Linux. And we also have 26% developers working in enterprise mode, and self-employed 19%, 7% designers working on it. Now, why you need to know all this? It's important to know who your audience is. So later you have a Flutter idea and you want to pitch it and you don't know who your audience is and you don't know how to pitch it, then definitely it's not worth knowing just the technical part of it. And we have almost 90,000 Flutter apps in the Play Store. So you can think at what speed people are building Flutter app and how much it has been encouraged and welcomed in the mobile industry. And also we had almost 3,000 pull requests with more than 350 contributors around the world. So people are contributing. So after this session, maybe you also would be one such person to contribute, or you already contributing also. And we also have like 5,000 issues getting closed. So you can see how many features are getting updated every day. So we had a couple of releases this year, which is like the version 1.22 is the latest one. And we had support for iOS 14, Android 11. We had the networking tracking tool, Dart Dev Tools. Now, when I say Dart Dev Tools, if you're from a web developer background or if you have developed websites, you know something called inspect your element when you right click on the mouse and then you get this console tab in the bottom. That's for inspecting your web pages, checking your network, tracking your network, and then you have a console where you can check all your bugs, everything. So similar way, Flutter also have this, and we can check all the network, source, inspect your widgets. So do check out the Dart Dev tool. So as soon as you run your Flutter app in your IDE, it will prompt you to check for the Dart Dev tool. So explore this, see how it is. Then you have navigation rail, date picker, text selection. So in the next slide, I'll show you all the visual representation of all these. But these were the couple of updates this year. So the first one being the navigation rail, which was a new widget that offers a responsive app navigation model, where this is a great, if you're kind of switching between the mobile and the desktop. So if it's mobile, you get this in this kind of a fashion. If it's desktop, it comes in a vertical, horizontal fashion. or it could be the date picker, where we had a more advanced version of the date picker, and it was one of the most anticipated update. And we also had something called text and Google fonts here, what you see here that I'm highlighting. So in this, what happens is that if I have to use fonts, all I have to do is download the font, add it to my asset folder, and then use it. But now I don't have to do it. When the app is ready to publish, the developers then decide whether the user wants it in the download it, or they can use the API pre-bundled with the app package. So all I do is Google Fonts dot and that particular font, and I'm able to get that particular font here. So it is that simple as it is. And then we have something called motion. This is also one of the cool feature, the motion specification, where it defines 4 transition patterns, animations between your component and your full screen. So like the view, container, transform, shared access, fade through, and fade. So if I'm looking for something like this, if I'm building an email client, and when I touch on it, I want this kind of a motion effect, I can definitely use this. So definitely check out. And this is very simple to use. I don't have to do anything. It's already pre-built in your material package. So just drag and drop it and you're good to go. And this is also a couple of other features where you can select a range of dates. Initially, only one date you could select, but now you can select a range of dates and use them. And we also had a new widget called as interactive viewer widget, where it enables you to quickly pan and zoom to any widget of your tree. So if you're using some kind of gaming application and you want to zoom that particular area of the gaming, you can use this widget. So definitely a widget has somewhere a use case scenario. So that's how I see when I'm developing apps. So I'm going to leave this section open for like 5 to 10 seconds, so that whatever examples you've seen, you can find, or if you want to explore more about it, you can go to this link and explore it and see what, if you want like to know more about it. And yeah, you can take a picture of it if you want. All right. So as you all know, Flutter is all about community. So Flutter wouldn't be possible without developers like you and me building it. So we have communities. We have Hump Day Q&A, which is happening every week, where we have Flutter developers all over the world talking about Flutter, discussing about Flutter, any issues, try to resolve it, share it. And we have a group called Flutterista. So if you are a woman or a non-binary who is interested in Flutter, we have this Flutterista Slack group, where it's been organized by 2 women, Danielle and Stephanie, good friend of mine. So you can just ping them on Twitter and get an invite to this, because it is an invite-based community join. And if you're still unable to reach them, get in touch with me. I'll leave the references in the next slide. So contact me. I will get you connected with these people, and you can be a part of it. We have a couple of amazing updates coming next year for the Jan. So you can be a part of this community, and you can also be a part of the meetup, conferences, all the places. So just find a way to get connected and start contributing. That's what I did, and I would suggest you also to do it if you would like to learn a technology. And yeah, that's it. So I think by this session, at least you would have got an idea what Flutter is, how it stands out in the market. If you're new to Flutter, definitely you would at least give it a try to see how it works. And if you are already an experienced person, you've already been using Flutter, then definitely this would have been kind of a refresher, and you would have got to know about the new updates in Flutter. And you can reach out to me on any of these channels. It's called WhatsApp Coders on my Twitter, GitHub. So whatever examples you've been seeing, you can see it on my GitHub account with the code fully available. So just go ahead, follow me, fork it, and start using the code. And yeah, that's it for today. And thank you so much for joining my session.
All right. Thank you so much, Kamal, for this outstanding session on Flutter. I think within 1 hour you did cover most of the topics inside Flutter. I'm
Oh.
using Flutter for last 8 months, and today we got to
Oh.
lot of new things in like Flutter animations and Arrive code generation from Adobe XD. Those are very new and very helpful for us. So guys, it's time for the questions. If you have any questions, ask in the chat box. I will read it. I think we have some questions earlier.
Okay.
Why does the Flutter app, first Flutter app build take so long? From
Okay. Okay, so let's give it some time. If there is a new app and it's taking some time, uh, think about the duration in which it actually evolved. So we are building on it. I mean, the Flutter team is building, and if you start comparing with the framework which was already there for 10 years, definitely in 1 year Flutter would take some time. But now try out with the latest release. Keep your Flutter version up to date with the latest one and see how your app is building. Definitely it's been reduced from 25 seconds to 6 seconds the build time. So there are a lot of other compromising factors. So give it some time, check out the latest release and see how your Flutter builds now.
hope it answers. And next question from Sahas Gunasekara. Does Webview Flutter have any limitations in comparison to that normal browser loading a page?
Definitely not. I have tried it and I've used it in a couple of my real time applications. I don't think there is any limitation. In case if you have one, also, there is this GitHub open issues. Log in your issue and see if you're having any loading problem as such. But until now, I have tried, I did not have any issue.
Okay. Next question from Nisal. Why is the build method on state widgets and not in stateful widgets?
Method. Okay, a build method, as I told you, it is kind of a redrawing. That is what the concept of stateful widget is all about. You have to redraw the widget in order to reflect the new state. In a stateless widget, you don't have anything like redrawing because it's static. If I'm going to display a text, even on refresh, nothing is going to happen. The text is going to remain a text. But in a stateful widget, why am I using that is to change the state of it. I want some change to appear on my screen. So that's why we have a build method, so that when I click on the counter button, increment or decrement, the counter has to change, increase or decrease. That's why we have a build.
Thank you. And next question. Should I learn Dart language before get started with Flutter?
Definitely yes. But if you already have learned Java, OOPS, C++, those kind of things, trust me, 1 week of time, Dart, you're good to go. So you don't have to spend too much of time, no. But if you're very new to programming, then definitely spend some time on Dart before jumping into Flutter.
So next question is there any way to access these online event materials? I think he referred to these lecture slides.
Oh, you mean the PPT slides? Definitely,
Yeah,
I will share it with Safnaz, and Safnaz will share it with you all, guys.
sure. Is there a fixed date for Flutter Web to be released as production ready from Sachira?
Okay, even I'm very desperate, like you guys, to know about it. So even I don't know, but whenever we get as a Google developer experts, we get some kind of hint. We will have a lot of videos or talk about it. But definitely, Google team has kept it secret, and they are working on it. So let's appreciate that, and let's give them some time. But until then, you are free to explore it. So try it out.
So again, question from Nisal. What are null aware operators?
Okay, if I have to go very deep into it, it's going to take a lot of time. If you want, I can take it offline with you or talk more about it later.
So another question from Ashar Ahmad. If I good in React Native, it is hybrid framework, then why I need to shift to Flutter Web?
Okay, so it's just like that ice cream flavors. So I wouldn't say, even I'm a good lover of React Native because I have tried out. I really liked it, but it totally depends on what kind of use case it is. Say if you if your client is requesting for a beautiful animations or something like that, give a try with Flutter and give a try with React, and you would see the difference. And if you're from a JavaScript background, definitely you would go for React. And if you're someone new to programming language, or if you're into Android or something, and if you try out Flutter, you would love the other side of it. But definitely React also has a lot of good features. So it totally depends on your use case, which you're comfortable with, how libraries or packages are there, how easily it is. Depending on that, you can go ahead with it.
And one more question from Dhanushan Ravendran. How Flutter lifecycle different from the Android and iOS lifecycle?
Not really much. If you had seen my another couple of sessions where I had exclusively covered about stateful widget, you have the same init, start, destroy, or dispose similar way. There is not big difference, but the only difference comes is you have two components before a tree. Whatever you see before a widget, you have something called elementary, and you have a render object. That is what makes it little different from the Android part. The rest of the thing all is same, the life cycle, I would say. The init stage where the initializing, um, all that remains the same. But in widget, it's little different, where you have, say for example, if you have a column widget, when you look at the elementary, it's like kind of an x-ray which is zooming in, and you see the skeleton part of it, which is like the elementary, and the more the zooming part is your render object. So that's how you see the life cycle or the visual view of a widget in Flutter.
Um, Another question from Sahas. Are there any recommended sources if I am completely newbie to a Flutter or Dart?
Yes, stick to the Bible, which is flutter.dev for Flutter, and dart.dev for Dart. Stick to it, learn from it, and definitely take help from all the videos and the Medium articles. And if you'd like to explore more about it, then go to the GitHub, fork all the repos, and try working on it. That is the only way you can learn things. But stick to the official websites, because that's where you get the genuine information.
And one more question. I think we have more questions. Why do we need mixins?
Okay. Okay, right now I don't remember about it. I think I need some time. Maybe I can take it offline.
Okay, sure. Personally, I had one question before, but
Sure,
now I am
sure.
crystal clear. Like after the session, I was using provider for all kind of projects for state management. So this session helped a lot for me. So guys, it's time for the quiz. We have one quiz, and we have to select. Sorry, we have to select one winner. The winner will get a GitHub T-shirt as the prize. So can we go with the quiz? Come on.
Okay, it's very simple. Just one question. What was the first version of Flutter known as? So I'll repeat the question. What was the first version of Flutter known as?
No one answered yet. I think they are googling. It's fine. You can put in the chat box.
Okay, I can tell that. It was called as, can I go ahead, Safnas?
Give me 2 minutes. Gudarshan Sivalingam answered as sky.
Yes, that's the right answer. Congratulations.
Okay, Gudarshan, reach out to me. I will give you the guidance to how you
Yeah.
can get the GitHub T-shirts.
Yeah, so the
Now I-
first version of Flutter was known as Sky.
Okay, is there any question? Okay, one more question. Yeah, I left it. I have seen Dart provide a package used by many developers. Can you share some information about that?
See, if I have to share information, I can take the whole day talking about Provider, because there's so many good features about it. In fact, my personal favorite is Provider. I use a lot day in and day out. But if you have any specific questions like why, or particular component or anything or use case where I can use, then I can come up with more descriptive answer. So you can come tweet me, or you can send me an email, or get an offline touch with me or something like that. But if you ask me provider, yeah, definitely it's good. It totally depends on your use case and what is your more in-depth question about it. That's where I can really answer more about it.
Yeah, personally, I felt in favoritism with this provider because it seems easy compared to this block pattern. So, okay, one more question. Are you comfortable with this time, or shall we wind up?
No, it's absolutely fine. Please go ahead.
How Flutter state restoration is different from shared preference?
Sorry, I didn't get that. What? Flutter?
How Flutter state restoration is different from shared preferences? From
Uh,
Basi.
I don't think it's much of a difference, but it totally depends on the usage. So yeah, maybe a little bit more on the detail side. I have to check that. So yeah, if you Google it, you will find. But yeah, to give you a more concrete answer, I have to do some research on it. In what context are you asking me? Because there are packages. I can just give you the English differences between those.
Okay. Okay. That's all for the moment, I guess. Okay, thank you very much again, Kamal, for your valuable weekend time with us, and thanks for accepting our very short period of invitations. So I hope you all guys get some understanding on Flutter, and we stick with our social media platforms. We have some cool events coming up. Okay, that's all. Thank you very much. See you all in next webinar. Thank you very much, Kamal.
Thank you, Safnas. Thank you, entire Floss team, and thank you, audience. And looking forward to it. And any questions, get back to me offline. Maybe I would not have been able to answer here, so I can get in touch with you in more detailed discussion about it. Thank you so much for having me. Have a nice weekend. Bye.
Bye.